Stardust, Chapter 1. First Contact. Being made of stone left little to do but go insane, or plan. Discord had done quite a bit of both in the previous millennia, and after finding himself once again petrified, he resumed his plotting. While his more mundane senses couldn't tell him about his surroundings, he had others to assist him. Celestia, his nemesis and companion for thousands of years, approached his frozen form along with the more muted and mundane minds for guards. Then he was moving somewhere. The development was unexpected so soon, but not unanticipated, especially when the presence of the elements appeared nearby. Had his face not been made of stone, Discord might have grinned. "Oh, Celestia, you are so easy to anticipate." A few moments passed before the Avatar of Chaos felt the elements of harmony begin to crack his stone prison. As Discord broke free, he screamed to the heavens for his emancipation, and followed his cry with a fit of laughter. "Reform me? Reform me?" Discord spoke between guffaws. "And who do you think can do it?" A quick glance to the yellow Pegasus was all Discord needed for confirmation. "Fluttershy!" He fell to the ground in laughter. The 6 elements surrounded Discord while Twilight stepped forward. Before Twilight could even speak, Discord shot upwards and looked down at her. "Oh yes, I know. His lion paw started to mimic a mouth speaking, and Twilight's voice came from it. "Righteous indignation, threats to use the elements, blah blah blah." "I haven't lived as long as I have without being able to see the writing on the wall, my dears," Discord continued, as he walked backwards. One mismatched claw pointed at the wall that appeared behind him. "It says 4th?" Twilight said, arching an eyebrow as she surveyed the word written there. She recoiled in surprise when Pinkie Pie's head burst from the center of the wall. "It doesn't matter which wall you put up, Discord. I will break it down if you start being mean again," Pinkie declared loudly, and the whole wall tumbled down around her. Discord shrugged and looked over his shoulder. "I knew I shouldn't have used that wall. Pinkie knows its fatal weakness." Both Pinkie and Twilight started to interrupt, but Discord shushed the two of them. "This situation can only end in 2 ways. I'll either become a lawn ornament again, or I'll reform myself. The only real wild card is how I'm reformed, so Twilight, care to make a wager? You and your precious friends all know in your heart of hearts that friendship can conquer all. I am still not convinced." Discord leaned backwards in a chair that instantly appeared behind him. His maniac eyes were now hidden behind orange-shaded glasses, and his now white-gloved paws or claws were steepled before his face. "These are the terms. Convince me irrefutably that friendship is the strongest power in the universe, and I will willingly submit to Celestia's authority." Twilight looked at the other elements before nodding and turning back to Discord. "I accept your challenge, Discord." The Avatar of Chaos grinned and snapped his fingers. A cardboard cutout of Twilight fell face first onto the ground where she had stood. What did you do to Twilight?" the other element screamed in disbelief. Discord only grinned and inspected his gloved paws. "Sent her off to win or lose our wager, of course. If friendship is as powerful as she says, then we will have no problems returning here and proving me wrong." He leaned forward and gave a grin that was all teeth. "I sent her someplace where hostility is first, second, and third nature. Someplace where the unknown is an enemy to be destroyed. Someplace where friendship certainly isn't magic." The screams and the sounds of fire nearby were the first indications that Twilight wasn't in Ponyville anymore. It was only a few long moments before her other senses returned to her, smoke quickly filling her lungs as she tried to take a breath. The unicorn coughed as she tried to stand, gone with the familiar feeling of grass and soil, replaced instead with smooth stone beneath her hooves. Girls, what happened?" Twilight slowly opened her eyes just to see what was going on, and she could only gasp. Gone were the comforting feels of grass outside of Ponyville. The ground was perfectly level and entirely stone, and the blockish buildings surrounding her on 3 sides were ablaze. As her senses recovered further, Twilight's analytical mind continued to take note of the details of her surroundings, including 2 metal boxes that she now found herself in between. Twilight's ears perked up upon hearing voices behind the box, and she cautiously peeked around the corner to see the source. On the other side was the clearing of a trio of figures emerged from between the buildings. All 3 were bipeds, 2 taller ones and a smaller one clinging as tightly as it could. The largest one shouted and turned back the way it came, while the other 2 continued to run. Twilight tracked the pair as they ran before turning back to the figure, just in time to see it die. Something with far too many claws and legs scuttled out from the darkness between the buildings and pounced into the welter of crimson blood. Both of the 2 remaining figures screamed, and in the blink of an eye, the monster crossed the distance and knocked the pair down. Only one screaming voice remained now, only to be abruptly terminated in a flurry of blood and claws. Twilight knew about death. She knew about predators and how they killed in the wild, and her studies were manifold and varied. And one of the brief subjects she had touched on was the natural sciences. She could rationally understand what had just happened, and may have been able to accept it as a fact of how the world worked had she read it in a book. But it didn't happen in a book. 3 lives have just ended violently before her at the claws of something she can only describe as a monster. Her eyes dilated to pinpricks as she began to hyperventilate loudly, which drew the attention of the murderous monster away from its latest victim. It dropped the tiny body and whirled around to advance upon Twilight with a howl. Stay away! Stay away! Twilight whispered to the thing, but it scuttled towards her on blade-like legs. Its glowing eyes fixed upon her, and a pair of claws tipped and gore-stained arms reached forward as it moved frightening speeds. The unicorn's horror transformed into mortal fear. She tapped her magic and screamed, "Stay away." The spell she intended to cast was a telekinetic press to slow or stop the monster's advance. Its lightest form would have felt like a wet blanket being thrown over its target, the stronger incantations being enough to bring a hardy earth stallion to the ground until it wore off. But Twilight's talent was raw magic, and her natural abilities were enhanced by the fear of a violent death so close at hand. A massive telekinetic force fell upon the monster, crushing it flat and spraying yellow ichor in all directions as well as crating the stone beneath it. The crushed body, or, well, what was left of it, twitched once before going still. Whatever hypnotic hold that held Twilight in place broke as she scrambled backwards before falling on her flanks. Her eyes remained locked on the corpse of the monster, and the same thought kept repeating through her mind. I didn't mean to hurt it. I didn't mean to hurt it. I didn't mean to hurt it. Tears began to well up in her eyes as a shadow fell over her. She had just enough time to register another biped standing behind her before her whole world went dark. 4:45 p.m., April 2nd, 2015, Washington, D.C. Fowler, Harris, the last chrysalid is down. Corporal Matt Harris reported through his comms as he stepped over to the stunned X-ray to survey what was left of the bug. He holstered the arc thrower and pistol and brought his rifle to cover the rather thoroughly crushed chrysalid while looking down to the corpse of the 3 civilians. Signal covery for my location. I have a live capture. Copy, Harris. Excellent work. The reply came through his helmet comms. Confirm capture type? The corporal turned back to the stunned and slightly twitching X-ray before shaking his head slightly. Unicorn, sir? Operation Hammerhead complete. Alien terror mission halted. Civilians losses minimal. Strike 1 reports 0 KIA, 2 WIA. Recovery team inventory. Documented by Lieutenant Fujikawa. Plasma weapon fragments, 15 total. Sectoid corpses, 5 total. Thin man corpses, 3 total. Chrysalid corpses, 3 total. Unicorn live capture. Operation evaluation, excellent.